Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial on basic manufacturing in Dynamics NAV. So at the end of this video you will have understood and we will have gone through the concepts of production orders, of the BOMs or Bill of Materials, of the routing and the work centers. We will look at the items and or the item cards, and we will look at the production journal. So you should have at the end of this video you should have a pretty good understanding of output, which is the produced output or the produced finished good. You should also have a good understanding of how this production flow impacts your inventory, both in terms of consumption and in terms of finished goods, and also work in progress. You should also have a pretty good understanding of how to automate some of it, and you should understand how material cost is reflected in the finished good cost. You should understand how machine cost is reflected in the finished good cost, and the same as goes for labor cost. So we'll be going through this video, and I have designed a small and very simple production case, and it is going to be the production of a ball of wood. So it will look something like this. And in order to produce this, we will need a brick or a block of wood, and we will need some paint. So basically somebody takes this piece of wood and carves it into the shape of a wooden ball, and then somebody, maybe the same person, maybe somebody else, paints the bottom of it. So for raw materials we will be using one block of wood, and each block of wood cost $10. And then we'll be using 0.1 liters of paint, and each liter of paint also costs $10. So really we'll be spending $1 worth of paint for each ball of wood. And the time it takes to produce this, it will take 60 minutes to carve and 60 minutes to paint. This might not be completely realistic, but I've chosen these numbers because it simplifies the case. So we'll be going through this setup with 3 different cases, and each gets more complicated than the previous one. So first we're going to be handling this, the production of a ball of wood. We're going to be handling that with some manual consumption, and we'll see how we consume, and we'll see how the finished good is put on inventory. Then next we're going to automate it a bit, and we're going to use the bill of materials to automate the consumption of raw materials. And in the third case we'll be looking at, or we will be adding to the case, we'll be adding a routing and some work centers, and this will allow us to register the labor cost and the machine cost. Okay, so let's have a look at this first and most simple of these 3 cases. So we will be producing, as I mentioned, one ball of wood. And the raw materials going into the production of this ball of wood are going to be one block of wood at $10 a piece and 0.1 liters of paint. And because each liter costs $10, we're going to be spending $1 worth of paint, which means that our total cost of the finished good, or the value of the finished ball of wood, is going to be $11. And this is going to be what we post to the inventory, or the value we book it into the inventory at. And through this case we'll be achieving, or you'll be understanding something about output, and we'll be looking at the inventory implications, and this captures the material cost. So it doesn't capture machine cost or labor. Let's get started over here. I've prepared a few steps that we need to take, so I'm just going to follow these bullet points here. So the first thing we need to do is to create those 3 items. So we're going to go to the item cards and the inventory area, and we'll be clicking new to get a new item card. So you can just give it any random number, and the first one we want to create is the ball of wood, which is going to be the finished good. So we'll call this ball of wood, and it will be produced in pieces. And then we need to, for everything to work, we need to give it some posting groups. It really doesn't matter which ones you select, because this only impacts the finances, and finance is not part of this tutorial. So I'll just give it retail and VAT 17, that's what it defaults to, and then resale again. Okay, so that was the first item we've created here, and we'll create a new one, which will be a block of wood, which is the raw material, or one of the two raw materials. We will be creating this as pieces, or stocking and consuming it as pieces, and we will also give it some more or less random posting groups. Really, it just needs to be able to post here. Go with raw materials. So like that, and then we will be creating the paint for ball of wood. And this does not come in pieces, it comes in liters. So we'll do like this, and also give it a few posting groups here. Like that. Okay. So at least now we've got the three items. We might need to adjust a few things to them, but we'll see that as if we get some error messages. So the next thing we need to do is to go into an item journal and put some of these raw materials on stock, because we cannot consume them unless we have them available in inventory. So item journal, like this, and we'll do a positive adjustment, and the item number that we'll do it for will be the block of wood, and we'll put 10 of those in inventory. Each of them cost or has the value of $10, so that the total will be 100. Next we will be doing another positive adjustment for some paint. So we'll be looking up here and say paint for ball of wood, and let's say we just happen to stumble upon 1 liter of that. So we'll put that into inventory, and 1 liter has a value of $10, and as we only have 1 liter, the total amount will be $10. So let's post this one. Alright, it's a little bit slow, but it got through it. So that was really step 2, updating the inventory. And now we need to go and actually create a production order and go through the actual production. So we'll go to release production orders. There are other kinds of production orders that are relevant to the production, but we will not go through them in this tutorial because I'm trying to make it as basic as possible. So we'll go to release production orders here, and we'll be creating a new one. And we'll select which item we want to create. You need to select this source type as item, but it will default to item. So when you look up here, you will have a list of your items, and the item that we are interested in producing is the ball of wood, and we want to produce 1 of those. And then next we'll be clicking on refresh production order here, and for now just go with whatever it defaults to. Okay. And you'll see that we now have a line down here. So this really is the creation of the production order, but we need to do a few more things. first we need to, we could just have a look at the production journal, which is here. And right now you see that it has one line. This is the area where we post, but we'll see that in a few moments. So right now we would only be posting one quantity of output, that is the finished good. But notice that it only has one line, because when we go and add some components to it, it will have more lines. So the place to add components, as I just did while I was speaking, is you have to highlight the line, and then you go to components here, and then you add the components and how much of each component you expect to consume when you produce this ball of wood. So we will be adding a block of wood. Keep in mind, this is the absolute most simple way to do it. Few production companies would do it this simple, but it's to keep it simple and so that it's relatively easy to understand. So we'll be consuming or using one block of wood to produce this ball of wood, but we'll also need some paint. So we'll do the same here and write paint, and this was the one. And then we'll have to use 0.1 liters. So I actually know that we're going to get a slight discrepancy because it says 0.1 here, and over here in expected quantity it says 1. And this has to do with the rounding precision of this particular item. So let's say if we set this to 2, for example, then it would go to 2, but if we set it to 2.1, for example, it will go to 3, so it's rounding up. So we need to adjust this rounding precision so that we can actually indicate 0.1 liters of paint. So we'll go to the item card here, advanced, and view, and then change the rounding precision. Oh, we just need to edit. So change the rounding precision to 0.1, like this. Okay, and now we should be able to indicate 0.1, yeah, and have it actually convert that into 0.1. So this does it for the components. So, but recall that just 2 minutes ago I went to the production journal and it only had 3 lines. But if we go to it to see it now, it has it had 1 line before, but now it has 3 lines. So the intention or the idea with this production journal would be so that when we consume this, it will update our inventory with one unit of a ball of wood, and it would downgrade or negatively adjust our inventory for these raw materials with 1 block of wood and 0.1 liters of paint. So let's try to post this production journal. Okay, and now it's gone. Quick note on production journal is that usually there are many other journals which can handle these particular operations of consuming and registering time and so on, but those will be for some other tutorials or some other videos. Usually you would want the guys on the shop floor to actually do the consumption, and they would not have access to the production order per se, so they will do it in a different way. But this is again to do it the most simple way that it's possible. So now we can go and have a look at our entries, and we'll be able to see the outcome or the result of our consumption, or the fact that we just posted the production journal. And this outcome is seen here in our item ledger entries. And we'll see that we have some consumption, and it has pulled out or negatively adjusted 1 in our inventory for this is the block of wood. You can just have a look at it, block of wood. And it has negatively adjusted or consumed 0.1 liters of paint for the wood, or for the ball. And it has also created 1 item output, and this is the finished good, the ball of wood. So the ball of wood. But we can also see some cost information, which says 10 here and 1 here, but it still doesn't have anything here in the cost of the ball of wood. And that is because we have not, well, there are a few reasons why, but when we finish the production order now and update the unit cost, we will see on these item ledger entries, we will be able to see that it says 11. So let's try to go ahead and do that. So assuming that we do not want to add anything more in terms of cost to this production order, you could actually add more cost elements to the production order even though you have already produced the ball of wood, and even though it has already created the item ledger entry. If you were to add more cost elements, it would just increase the cost of that particular item ledger entry when you do the adjust cost batch job. But let's assume that we are happy with what we have consumed and the raw materials that we have spent producing this ball of wood. In that case, we're going to go to the Home tab, and then we will say Change Status, and then we will finish the production order. But in order to get the cost updated, and so that we do not have to run the Adjust Cost batch job, we'll set a check mark in the Update Unit Cost and click Yes. And now we can see that this particular production order, 04 here, has been converted from a released to a finished production order, also with the same number. So we'll go OK, and then we'll go and have a look at the finished production orders here. And we'll see it here, 04. And if we double click this one and go to the item ledger entries, we will see that we now have, it's the same item ledger entries, but we have updated the cost so that it has a cost of 11. So if we were to sell this particular item here, our cost of goods sold would be 11. But until we sell it, we have to put it on inventory, or it is already on inventory. That means that the inventory has now been updated with worth 11. Okay, so that was the first very simple way to produce a ball of wood. So that was the first case. In the next case, we are going to be making it slightly more complicated or advanced. And in this case, we're going to be using the BOM feature, or the functionality, also called the Buils of Materials, which is really a list of ingredients, or the list of raw materials which need to be consumed or added to the production when we are producing a ball of wood. So we'll still be producing a ball of wood, and we will still be using 1 block of wood to produce it. We'll be using those 0.1 liters of paint, which is worth $1, and we will be using the BOM. So in this one we will achieve some, we'll have a look at the output, which is the finished good. We'll have a look at how the inventory is affected by this, the usage of this BOM. And we'll be using or looking at the material cost, or the material cost will be captured in the cost of the finished good. And then we'll be getting a little bit of automation. So really the purpose of, or one of the purposes of using this bill of material or BOM is to avoid the guys on the shop floor or the manufacturing personnel to actually manually have to indicate what they have spent or what they have used for the production. It also has many other advantages, such as being able to organize the picking process. So the bill of material is really a good way to structure your production when your production is rather static, meaning that every time you produce a ball of wood, you would expect the same consumption. If your production is very fluent or very it changes from time to time, So sometimes you have to use one block of wood, and sometimes you have to use more wood. Then you might not want to use the bomb because you want to capture exactly how much you have, many raw materials you've spent. But anyway, in this case, we are assuming that the production, every time we produce a ball of wood, it is going to be spending the same amount of raw materials every time. So the first thing we need to do is to create a BOM, and it's called a production BOM. So we'll go here and we'll create a new one. And we'll call it ball of wood. So for those who are new to Buils of Materials, it's like the recipe for a dish or some food that you would be cooking in your kitchen. So it really says what ingredients would go into producing this particular item. So we will be producing in pieces, and we will be adding the components down here, which will be the block of wood, which is the first one that we use. So the block of wood, and we would want to use one of those, and then we also need some paint. So what we're indicating here on the lines are the components going into producing a ball of wood. So paint for a ball of wood, one of those, and we would like to spend 0.1 of those. And that really does it. You have to change this from new to certified, otherwise you'll get an error message. Sometimes I like to show you the error messages, but in this case I'm just going to certify this one. So we'll say OK, and we will now go to the item, and we need to connect the ball of wood with this particular BOM that we have just created. So here in our item list, we'll browse down until we find the ball of wood. Ball of wood, I believe this is the one. Double click that one. And then we go to the production area down here. And we set up the production BOM for the ball of wood. And that should be about it. Because now if we go and create a released production order, by the way, the released production orders are those production orders that you can work with, that you can consume, and that you can finish. The other states of production orders are either before you actually start working with them, they're called planned, or they are called, or it's after you're done with them and they're called finished. But even anyways, we're going to be creating a new production order. We'll give it a, we will let the system give it a number, and we will choose item here in source type, and we will find our ball of wood because that is what we want to produce, and then we want to produce one of those. So let's go and hit refresh production order, and you will see now that that instead of having no components suggested, it will suggest us to use the components from the BOM or bill of materials that we just created. So we'll say refresh and say OK. And now if we highlight this line and go into the components, we will see that the NAV would suggests us that this is what we should be consuming. And if you have a very, very static production environment where you always know that this is going to be what you spend, then in that case this is just fine, and you would never need to modify these lines. We can also see that in the production journal, whereas before it was created without these two consumption lines, but now it has been created with these two consumption lines. So we don't have to go and add those consumption lines to our production order. In fact, we can just click post just to confirm we have one block of wood, we have 0.1 liters of paint for the ball, and using these raw materials, we will be creating one ball of wood. So we hit post, and the lines are posted. And once again, I like to go to see the result of this. I like to go to the item ledger entries here and verify that we have had some negative consumption and that we have had some positive adjustment or some output. And we can see that the costs looks good. Still, we haven't finalized the order, so we will not see any cost in this field. But if we go and say change status, we can catch this one from several places. So we go and select the finished, and we say yes, we would like to update the unit cost, and we click yes. And there you go. We have to go now to find the production order has been converted from a released one to a finished one. So we'll go to the finished production orders here. That was a little bit too. So finished production orders here, and it was 05. So we'll double click this one and go to entries and item ledger entries. So it looks fine. We have a cost of 11, and this particular ball of wood has been put into inventory at a cost of, or a value of 11. So the difference between this case and the first one really just was that we created a BOM and had NAV suggest what we should be consuming. Obviously it doesn't make a huge impact when you see it like this, when it's only two components. But if we had a production of 200 components, it would make quite a lot of difference that whoever is producing this production order does not have to sit there manually every single time and add those components. So this was the second case of the production. Okay, so that was the production case when we're using a BOM or a bill of materials. So now we'll move on to the third and most complicated version of this. Well, it's still very basic, but of these three cases, this will be the most complicated or complex one. So we're still going to be producing one ball of wood, and we'll be, to produce this ball of wood, we'll use raw materials of one block of wood, which cost $10 for one block. We'll also be using 0.1 liters of paint, and 1 liter of paint is $10. So again, we will be spending $1 worth of paint. We will be using the bill of material, but we will also use what is called routing, and the data going into the routing is two work centers. We'll have a carving station and we have a painting station, and this is really just it could be just be an area of the workshop, but in this case the carving work center both includes a machine, so it's a carving machine, and also somebody to operate it. So the cost for running this work center per hour is $30. So in this case, I'm assuming that in labor, the labor cost is $15 per hour, and also the machine cost is $15 per hour. So assume that you have paid such and such many money for your machine, and you want to distribute that cost across all of your produced goods based on how much time they take of the capacity of the machine. So that is the scenario here. So really, when we are carving our ball of wood, we are spending $30 of the company's money. So when we are painting it, it's just labor, and it's in terms of cost, it's just 15. Obviously, when we're painting, we also have to remember that some raw materials, that is the paint, go into this particular activity. So the total cost calculation can be seen down here, We will be carving at the station for 1 hour, so that's $30. We will be painting for 1 hour, and that's $15. And then we have raw materials going into the ball of wood worth $11. So that is a total of $56. Okay, so let's get started with this one. So the first thing we need to do is to create 2 work centers for our route. And those 2 would be the carving station and the painting station. So we're gonna go to work centers and create new, and we'll call it carving station, and we'll add it to the production department, and we will add $30 for 1 hour. We'll set the hour down here. But first we just need to remember to add the posting group, otherwise we'll get some posting errors. This, and then we'll select in units of measure. We'll select hours. So if we write 1 in the time, that is it is assumed that will be 1 hour. Usually you would want to use minutes, but for this demonstration case it's easier to use hours. So unit cost for the work center, the carving station, will be 30, and the reason was that we had both labor and machine cost, 15 each. And if we go through the rest of these, we'll put a shop floor calendar code here. And that's about it. So we'll click OK, and we'll select or create a new one, and this one we'll call painting station. And also in the production department, we don't need this one, and we'll give it a cost per hour of $15. So we'll have to give it a general product posting group, and then a unit of measure as 1 hour. So as you can guess, this relates to what it says up here. So we can move on, and in the shop floor code here, we'll select 1 shift and click OK. So those are the 2 work centers that we now have. And then we need to combine those into a routing. So we'll click routings here and new, and we'll call this ball of wood, like that. And that will be it for this. And then on the for the header, and then on the lines we'll give it operation number 10. That's just some random number. You can put in here whatever you want. And we will select our first work center, which is the carving station, and we will select also our second work center, which is the painting station. If you want to, you can have NAV suggest default time values, but for in this example we will imagine that whoever produces these things, or whoever carves the ball and whoever paints the ball, will be registering the actual time spent. It just so happens to be 60 minutes for both of them, but if you are really sure that you are spending the same amount of time every time, or at least if you're prepared to make that assumption, then you can put in times here, and you can have NAV suggest those to the user. But I prefer to leave these to 0. What we also need to do is we need to indicate this as certified, otherwise we will get an error message later on. So I'll just do that. And then we have to go to the item card of the ball of wood, like this. And it is here, and we need to then add the routing number, which is the ball of wood, the one that we just created. And that is a way to connect So what we're really saying is that whenever we produce one of these balls of wood, it should use this routing that we've just created. So we'll click OK and go to Release Production Orders. And we are going to be creating a new one. So a new release production order. This is the same as we did before. The outcome is just going to be slightly different. So item here and ball of wood in the field to indicate what we want to produce. And then we say that we want to produce one of those. And we will go to refresh production order and click OK. And if we highlight this line and click line, we will see now that, well, we can start with the components. Those are the same because we have not done anything. We have not changed the case to indicate any more components. What we have changed though, what I did not show you last time, if I had showed you this last time, it would have been blank. But if we go into routing now, we'll see that we are expecting this ball of wood to go through these two work sensors. And if we go to the production journal here, we'll see that this has also changed. So now we see two lines with consumption and the two lines on the root, one for each workstation. You might have assumed that we would see 5, where one of them would be the final output, the creation of the ball of wood. But the assumption is that when we finalize the last step on the root or on the routing, we will create our output. So this quantity 1 here, that is when we register this line with quantity 1, that is in effect what will update our inventory, or our finished goods inventory with a quantity of 1. So just before we post this, let's just for the educational value of it, let's just go to the entries and see that we do not have any entries yet. So nothing has been consumed and nothing has been put on inventory. We actually also do not have any capacity ledger entries. So if you go back here to the line and click production journal and post this, actually we would want to put some time runtime in this one. So this is to indicate how much time we spent, and actually we should not say 60, we should say 1, because we have set up this particular work center to work based on hours. So 1 hour, it has taken us 1 hour to produce, and it has taken us 1 hour down here. So 1 hour for carving the ball and 1 hour for painting. Again, if you were to set this up, it would be more convenient, or the normal practice is to use minutes here. So anyways, we're going to be posting this one. Let's say, oh yeah. And when we come back to our production order here, we can go and have a look at the implications. And those are found in the entries, so item ledger entries. So we'll see now that in terms of our inventory, we have some consumption. So these consumptions are negative adjustments worth 1 for the block of wood and worth 0.1 liters for the paint. And those have respectively $10 and $1 next to them. So a total of $11 in raw materials. But we also have some capacity ledger entries here. And the capacity ledger entries tells us that we have, for the first line, we have had a cost of 30, and for the second line we've had a cost of 15, because we spent 1 hour on each of them. So we can finalize this production order by going to change status, click finished, and select the update unit cost field here, and then we'll click yes. And it will inform us that now the finished production order 101006 has been created. So let's go have a look at that one. Finished production orders and 06 here. So if we go to the entries first, item ledger entries, and have a look, still the consumption is as we expected, but even more exciting is that we have now produced an item with a value of 56. And this was exactly what we expected, and if we go into value entries here, we can see, well, actually it won't give us too much more information, but if we go to capacity ledger entries here, we'll be able to see that part of the cost which was pulled out of, or which was added due to the time it spent us to produce this ball of wood. So that really does it for the third and final production case for this very, very basic setup of manufacturing in Dynamics NAV.